Welcome to Cherry Blossom BL Story, where emotions bloom and stories unfold. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's chapter.
A ruthless vampire king who burns villages and rips out hearts without blinking captures the softest boy in the world, a gentle healer who still hums lullabies in chains. He chains him, starves him, kisses him bloody, kills anyone who even looks at him too long. But the more he tries to shatter this fragile thing, the more he starts to need him to breathe. One night, he finally asks himself the question that could destroy everything. What happens when the monster realizes he's the one being tamed? Chapter 1. Whispers in the Village. The village of Thornhollow clung to the edge of the world like moss on a forgotten stone. Nestled between the black pine forest and the jagged spine of the Ironcrag Mountains, it was too small for maps and too poor for visitors. No roads led here worth traveling, only narrow dirt tracks that turned to slurry in rain and dust in drought. The people of Thornhollow liked it that way. They kept to themselves, raised hardy goats, mended nets, and told the same stories around the same hearths every winter. Strangers were rare. Trouble was rarer still. Elian was the softest thing in that hard place. He lived in the last cottage before the tree line, a low stone building with a thatch roof gone patchy with age. Inside, shelves bowed under jars of dried herbs, salves in cracked pottery, and bundles of roots tied with twine. Outside, a small garden struggled against the wind. Lavender, chamomile, feverfew, plants that refused to thrive anywhere else in the village but bloomed stubbornly under his hands. He was 21, though no one could quite remember when his birthday fell. Tall enough to reach the high shelves in the communal storehouse, slender enough that older women still tried to press extra bread into his hands. His hair was the pale gold of winter sunlight, worn longer than most men here dared, and his eyes were the startling green of new leaves after long snow. People said he looked like something that belonged somewhere else, somewhere warmer, kinder, with glass windows and music that wasn't just wind through pine. They also said he could heal things that shouldn't heal. A goat with a torn leg walked again after 3 days under his care. Old Marin's cough, the one that rattled like dry bones, quieted after Elian sat with her for a week, pressing warm poultices to her chest and murmuring songs no one recognized. When Widow Lyra's youngest broke his arm falling from the hayloft, the bone knit straight in half the usual time. No one called it magic, not out loud, but they brought him their hurts anyway, and they left lighter. Elian never asked for payment. He accepted what was offered. A wheel of cheese, a skein of wool, a jar of honey still warm from the comb. He smiled at children who stared too long, and spoke softly to the old ones who forgot names. He was gentle in a way that made the village feel briefly less brutal. But gentleness invites shadows. The first whispers came with the autumn traders, men who drove ox carts down from the high passes once a year, bringing salt, iron, and news. This year the news was darker. Raids along the western valleys. One of them muttered over thin ale in the single tavern. Not wolves. Worse. They come at night, silent as mist, take the young and the fair, leave the rest bleeding or burning. The villagers listened, then shrugged. Tales grew in the telling. Always had. Yet the next month brought a peddler who swore he'd seen the aftermath. A hamlet reduced to ash, bodies arranged in neat rows like cordwood, the prettiest ones missing. They don't kill for sport, he said, voice low. They harvest. Elian heard the stories the way he heard most things, distant, muffled, like voices underwater. He had enough to tend, a child with croup, a ewe struggling to birth, the ache in Widow Lyra's knees that no poultice could fully chase away. Vampires were a problem for other people, in other places. Thornhollow was too small, too poor, too far. He was wrong. It came on the night of the first hard frost. The wind howled down from the Ironcrags, rattling shutters and tearing at the thatch. Elian had stayed late at Marin's, brewing willowbark tea for her joints. He was walking home under a sky thick with stars when the screaming began. It started at the far end of the village, sharp, cut short. Then another voice, and another. Lanterns flared in windows. Doors banged open. Elian broke into a run. He reached the square in time to see shapes moving too fast to be human. Cloaked figures, pale as bone, eyes catching firelight like polished rubies. They moved with the economy of predators. One seized Jory the blacksmith by the throat and flung him against the well. Another dragged a screaming girl from her mother's arms. Blood sprayed black in the lantern glow. Elian froze. A hand clamped around his wrist. Iron cold, iron strong. He twisted, but the grip only tightened until bone ground against bone. "Pretty," the vampire hissed, voice amused. "Very pretty." Elian tried to speak, to beg, to reason. Nothing came out. His mouth worked soundlessly. Another raider appeared beside them, taller, hooded. "This one? Aye. Too delicate for the common lots. The private buyers will pay triple for untouched skin like that." They dragged him toward the edge of the square, where 3 heavy wagons waited, oxen stamping nervously. Chains rattled inside the nearest one. Elian glimpsed faces he knew. Lyra's youngest daughter, the miller's apprentice, already bound and gagged, eyes wide with animal terror. He stumbled as they shoved him forward. His free hand reached instinctively toward the nearest villager, an old man cowering behind a cart. But the vampire yanked him back so hard his shoulder popped. "Don't," the creature said cheerfully. "You'll only make it worse for them." Elian was thrown into the wagon. The door slammed shut behind him. Darkness swallowed everything but the smell of fear sweat and old blood. The convoy lurched into motion. Through the narrow slats he could see flames rising behind them, Thorn Hollow burning. Someone was screaming his name, but the voice faded quickly, eaten by the wind and the creak of axles. Inside the wagon, someone sobbed quietly. Elian reached out in the dark until his fingers found a trembling hand. He squeezed once, gently. The sobbing paused. He didn't know how long they traveled. Hours, maybe more. The road grew rougher, the air colder. At some point, the wagon stopped. Voices outside, low and laughing. "Keep him clean. No marks. The elite buyers like them pristine." "Shame. I'd like a taste." "You'll live without it. This one's slated for the high table. Word is the king himself sometimes browses the private lots." A low whistle. "Draven's tastes run expensive." Elian pressed his forehead to the rough wood of the wagon wall and closed his eyes. He had never felt so small. The convoy rolled on into the night, carrying him deeper into the unknown wilderness, toward a fate measured not in years, but in how long his fragility could be preserved before someone decided to break it. And somewhere ahead, in an obsidian fortress shrouded by mist, a king waited, who had not yet heard Elian's name, but who would soon learn exactly how much ruin one gentle boy could withstand before he shattered, or before he changed everything. Chapter 2. The storm lashed flight in Gino. The wagon lurched like a wounded animal. Rain hammered the roof in sheets, turning the dirt road into a river of mud. Inside, the captives swayed against one another, silent now, shock having burned away most of the screaming. Elian pressed his back to the rough planks, wrists raw from the manacles, listening to the oxen grunt and the drivers curse the weather. The storm had come up fast, swallowing the stars, turning night into something solid and suffocating. Thunder rolled low and long, vibrating through the wood. Then lightning split the sky, white-hot, blinding. The flash lit the interior through the slats like a photographer's flare. Pale faces, wide eyes, mouths frozen mid-breath. Outside, one of the mounted guards shouted something unintelligible. His horse reared, hooves slipping in the muck. The man lost his seat for a heartbeat, arms windmilling. The wagon slowed. Alien felt the shift before he understood it. The guard's attention fractured, the chain at the rear door momentarily slack as the man fought to regain control of his mount. The lock rattled. Not open, not yet, but loose. His heart slammed against his ribs so hard it hurt. He didn't think. He moved. Twisting sideways, he drove his shoulder into the door. The wood groaned. He did it again, harder, pain blooming in the joint. The lock gave with a metallic snap. Not fully, but enough. The door swung outward a handspan. Cold rain slapped his face. He threw himself through the gap. He hit the ground rolling, mud swallowing the impact. The wagon was already picking up speed again. He scrambled to his feet and ran, blind, barefoot, lungs burning, straight into the wall of black pines that lined the road. Branches clawed at him like living things. Rain blinded him. He didn't stop. Behind him a shout went up, sharp, furious. Hooves pounded. A crossbow twanged. The bolt hissed past his ear and buried itself in a trunk with a wet thump. Alien ducked lower, zigzagging between trees, letting the forest swallow him. He ran until his legs gave out. He collapsed against the roots of an ancient fir. Chest heaving, rain pooling in the hollows of his collarbones. The storm roared overhead, drowning sound. He strained to listen. Nothing but wind and water and the hammering of his own pulse. They would come. They had to come. He pushed himself up again. The forest was endless and merciless. Roots tripped him. Thorns tore his shirt and skin. He lost track of direction. The road could have been anywhere. His feet bled, but the cold numbed the worst of it. Hours passed, or minutes. Time dissolved in the downpour. He was shivering so violently his teeth clacked when he first saw the light. A single lantern glow, low and steady, flickering through the trees like a false dawn. A cottage, small, crooked, moss-roofed, sat in a tiny clearing. Smoke curled from the chimney despite the rain. A thin trail of light leaked from under the door. Alien stared at it for a long minute, suspicion warring with exhaustion. He had nowhere else. He staggered forward and knocked. 3 soft raps, barely audible over the storm. The door opened almost at once. An old woman stood there, bent but steady, wrapped in a wool shawl the color of wet slate. Her face was deeply lined, eyes pale and clouded, but her smile was warm, grandmotherly, almost. "Child," she said, voice soft as hearth ash. "You'll drown out here. Come in, come in." Elian hesitated. She stepped aside, gesturing with a gnarled hand. "I've tea on. Warm yourself before the fire. No harm in my house." The warmth that drifted out smelled of chamomile and wood smoke. His body decided before his mind could argue. He stepped over the threshold. The cottage was small, dim, crowded with dried herbs hanging from the rafters. A fire crackled in a stone hearth. A kettle steamed. She guided him to a stool near the flames and pressed a chipped mug into his hands. The tea was dark, fragrant, bitter on the tongue. "Drink slow," she murmured. "You're half frozen." He drank. The heat spread through him like sunlight after winter. His shivering eased. His eyelids grew heavy. "Thank you," he whispered. She patted his shoulder. "Rest now, lamb. You're safe." The world tilted. He tried to stand. His knees buckled. The mug slipped from numb fingers and shattered on the floor. Darkness rushed in. He woke to iron. Manacles again, this time tighter, biting into wrists already raw. He was on the floor of the same cottage, but the fire had died to embers. The old woman stood over him, no longer bent, no longer smiling. Her eyes gleamed red in the faint glow. Around her, shadows resolved into figures. 5, 6, maybe more. cloaks dripping, fangs catching the last light. One of them laughed, low and pleased. "Told you he'd come running," the woman said. "They always do when they're desperate." Alien tried to speak. His tongue felt thick, useless. A tall vampire stepped forward, lean, scarred, wearing the same black livery as the convoy guards. He crouched, tilting Alien's chin up with one cold finger. "Quick thinker," he said. "Pity it wasn't quick enough." They hauled him to his feet. He couldn't fight. The drug still swam in his veins, turning muscle to water. They dragged him outside into the storm, which had eased to a steady, miserable drizzle. A second wagon waited in the clearing, smaller, unmarked. They threw him inside with the same casual violence as before. The door slammed. As the oxen started forward again, the old woman's voice drifted after them, cheerful now. "Tell the buyers he's still unbroken. They'll pay extra for that." Alien curled into himself on the filthy boards, listening to the wheels turn, carrying him deeper into the dark. He had escaped once. They had let him think he could. Now the forest closed around the wagon like jaws, and every creak of the axles sounded like laughter. Somewhere ahead, the obsidian citadel waited, silent, patient, inevitable. And the king who ruled it had not yet learned the name of the fragile thing being delivered straight to his feet. But he would. Soon. Chapter 3. The King's Appraisal. The wagon stopped with a jolt that rattled every bone in Alien's body. No more rain. No more thunder. Only silence. Thick, expectant, the kind that presses against the ears until they ache. The door was yanked open. Cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of wet stone, iron, and something older. Old blood dried to rust. Hands seized him under the arms and hauled him out. His legs buckled immediately. The drug still lingered in his blood like slow poison. They didn't let him fall. They dragged him forward across flagstones, slick with moss and something darker. He was in a cavernous hall carved from black rock. Torches burned in iron sconces, throwing long, jagged shadows. The ceiling vanished into darkness high above. Around him stood perhaps 24 figures, tall, motionless, cloaked in shades of midnight. Their eyes caught the firelight and held it, glowing like banked coals. Fangs glinted when they breathed. No one spoke. Alien's gaze darted from face to face, searching for mercy and finding only appraisal. Cool, clinical. The way a jeweler studies a flawed gem before deciding whether to cut or discard. Then the crowd parted. A single figure stepped forward. He was taller than the rest, broader through the shoulders, yet moved with the liquid grace of something that had long forgotten the weight of mortality. His hair was black as wet ink, falling straight to the collar of a long coat, the color of fresh bruises. Skin pale as new marble, and the eyes, crimson, not glowing like the others, but burning low and steady, like the heart of a forge. Draven Tyrant. Even the name felt like a blade drawn across skin. Alien had heard it whispered in the wagon, half curse, half prayer. The Vampire King. The one who had ended 3 dynasties in a single winter. The one who collected thrones the way other men collected coins. Draven stopped 3 paces away. He did not speak at first. He simply looked. Alien felt the weight of that gaze like physical pressure. It stripped him bare, not his clothes, but everything beneath. Fear, exhaustion, the stubborn flicker of hope he still carried. Draven's lip curled, just enough to show a glimpse of fang. "Pathetic," he said at last. The word dropped into the silence like a stone into deep water. He circled Alien slowly, boots making no sound on the stone. The other vampires watched without blinking. Draven stopped behind him. A gloved hand, black leather, supple as sin, reached out and caught Alien's chin, forcing his head up. The touch was cold enough to burn. "Look at you," Draven murmured. porcelain skin, eyes like poisoned spring water. Not a mark on you yet. His thumb traced the line of Elia's jaw, almost gentle, then pressed hard enough to bruise. Humans break so easily. It's almost boring. Elian swallowed. His throat clicked dryly. Draven's gaze flicked to the other captives. Half a dozen trembling figures kneeling in a ragged line. A girl no older than 16? A broad-shouldered man whose hands shook. A boy younger than Elian, already crying silently. Draven's expression didn't change. "Take the rest to the pens," he said to no one in particular. "Sort them for the auctions. The strong ones to the fighting pits, the rest, whatever pays." Guards moved at once, hauling the others away. Whimpers and the clink of chains faded down a side corridor. Elian remained. Draven released his chin and stepped back, studying him again. "Why this one?" one of the courtiers asked, tall, silver-haired, voice oily with curiosity. Draven didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached out and caught a lock of Elian's pale hair between two fingers, rubbing it as though testing the texture of silk. "Because," he said finally, "I want to see how long it takes something this delicate to shatter." A low ripple of amusement moved through the watching vampires. Draven's hand dropped. He turned on his heel. "Bring him." Two guards seized Elian's arms and followed. They passed through arched doorways, down spiraling stairs, lit only by faint phosphorescent veins in the stone. The air grew colder, heavier. The sound of dripping water echoed like distant heartbeats. At last, they reached a narrow corridor lined with iron doors. One was already open. Inside, absolute dark. No window, no torch. Just a single iron ring set high in the wall. A length of chain already waiting. They shoved Elian forward. He stumbled, caught himself against the damp stone. The guard snapped the manacle around his wrist, yanked the chain taut, and locked it. His arm was stretched above his head. He could stand, but barely. Draven stepped into the doorway, filling the frame. The guards withdrew without a word. The door began to close. Draven spoke one last time, voice soft, almost intimate. "You exist because I allow it," he said. "You breathe because I have not yet decided the precise shape of your suffering. Every heartbeat is a courtesy I can revoke at any moment." The door shut with a sound like a tomb ceiling. Darkness swallowed Elian whole. He stood there, chained, listening to his own ragged breathing. Somewhere far above, in halls of black marble and crimson light, the Vampire King had already dismissed him from thought, or so it seemed. But Elian felt it, the weight of that crimson gaze lingering, curious, cruel, patient, like a predator that has not yet decided whether to kill quickly, or savor the kill for a very long time. In the suffocating black, Elian closed his eyes and tried to remember the smell of lavender in his garden. It was already fading. In Chapter 4, Shadows of Tormenting Young. Time lost meaning in the dark. There was no window to mark the passage of day into night, no candle to gutter and dye. Only the slow drip of water somewhere in the stone and the occasional scrape of boots in the corridor beyond the iron door. Elian counted his own heartbeats at first. Steady, stubborn things, but even that rhythm began to blur after a while. Hunger became a living thing coiled inside his ribs, gnawing quietly, patiently. The first visit came without warning. The door opened with a groan of hinges. Torchlight stabbed into the cell like a blade. Elian flinched, eyes watering after so long in black. Draven stepped inside alone. No guards, no ceremony. Just the king coat discarded, sleeves rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms corded with old scars and newer ones still pink at the edges. He carried nothing but a single silver goblet. Draven said nothing at first. He simply stood in the center of the cell and watched Alien hang from the chain, knees bent to keep the strain from tearing his shoulder. Then slowly he lifted the goblet to his lips and drank. The smell hit Alien like a physical blow, rich, coppery, warm. Blood. Fresh. Draven's throat worked once, twice. A single drop escaped the corner of his mouth and slid down his chin. He wiped it away with the back of his hand, studying the smear as though it fascinated him. "You are starving," he said at last. Not a question. Alien's mouth was too dry to answer. He only stared. Draven stepped closer. The torchlight carved his face into harsh planes, cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass, eyes burning low and steady. He crouched until their faces were level. "I could feed you," he murmured. "A scrap, a sip, enough to keep that fragile heart beating a little longer." He tilted the goblet so the surface of the blood caught the light shimmering. "Or I could pour this on the floor and watch you try to lap it up like a dog. Which do you think would amuse me more?" Alien closed his eyes. Draven laughed, soft, almost tender. Defiance by silence. How quaint. He rose, set the goblet on the floor, just out of reach, and left without another word. The door closed. The smell lingered. Hours, days. Later the door opened again. This time Draven was not alone. 2 guards flanked him, dragging Alien's chain until he had no choice but to stumble forward. They pulled him through corridors of black marble veined with crimson quartz, past arched doorways that opened onto vast halls. The air grew warmer, thicker with the scent of smoke and spice and something metallic. They brought him to the great dining hall. A long table stretched the length of the room, black wood polished to a mirror shine. Vampires lounged along its sides, some reclining on velvet cushions, others perched on the edges like birds of prey. Crystal goblets stood before each place. No food, only drink. At the head sat Draven. He did not rise when Alien was forced to his knees at the foot of the table. He merely gestured with one lazy hand. The guards shoved Alien forward until his chest pressed against the table's edge. His chained wrists were yanked up and hooked to an iron ring set into the wood directly in front of Draven. Now he could see everything. A young woman, human, was led in, wrists bound with silk, eyes glassy with some enchantment or terror or both. She was beautiful in the way flowers are beautiful just before they wilt. One of the courtiers rose, smiling, and drew her down onto his lap. Fangs flashed. A soft gasp. Blood welled and was caught neatly in a goblet passed hand to hand. Alien looked away. Draven's boot pressed against his ribs, light, warning. "Eyes on the feast," he said. "Learn." Another captive was brought forward. This one fought. Briefly. A quick snap of fangs at the throat and the struggle ended in a wet gurgle. The body was passed along the table like a shared dish. Laughter rippled through the hall. Alien's stomach heaved. When the last of the living wine had been drained and the emptied husks removed, Draven leaned forward. He reached across the table and caught Alien's chin, forcing his head up. "You flinched," he said. 3 times. Each flinch costs you something. He released Alien's face and struck him, open-handed, precise. The blow snapped Alien's head to the side. Blood bloomed on his lip. "First," Draven continued, almost conversationally. "Another strike. Harder." Alien tasted copper. "Second. A third." This one split the skin over his cheekbone. "Third." Draven sat back, satisfied. "Take him back." They did. In the cell again, alone, Alien curled on the cold stone as best the chain allowed. His face throbbed. Hunger was a constant scream now. But worse than either was the memory of those crimson eyes watching him, measuring every tremor, every swallowed sob. Draven returned the next night. Or the one after. time had no edges anymore. He brought no goblet this time, only himself. He crouched close enough that Elian could feel the unnatural chill radiating from his skin. Slowly, deliberately, Draven lifted Elian's wrist, the unchained one, and turned it palm up. Blue vines traced delicate paths beneath pale skin. Draven traced one with a single fingernail. Not cutting. Not yet. "Do you know how easy it would be?" he whispered. One small tear, a moment of pressure. Your life spilling out in a warm rush. I could drink you dry before your heart stopped beating. He leaned in. Fangs extended with a soft, wet click. The tips brushed the pulse point, light as a kiss. Elian's breath hitched. Draven inhaled, savoring the scent of fear and blood just under the surface. "You smell like spring," he murmured against the skin. "Like things that die too easily." He lingered there, fangs hovering, breath cool against the heat of Elian's pulse. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then he pulled back. "Not yet," he said, almost to himself. "Not tonight." He stood and left. In the silence that followed, Elian did the only thing he could think to do. He hummed. It was an old lullaby, something his mother had sung when fevers came, when nights were long and cold. The notes were cracked, barely audible, frayed at the edges from thirst and exhaustion. But they filled the cell like smoke, soft and persistent. He didn't know if anyone could hear. He didn't know if Draven ever returned to listen from the other side of the door. But he sang anyway. Small, defiant, gentle. In the shadowed corridors beyond the cell, the Vampire King paused once, just once, head tilted, crimson eyes narrowing. Something flickered in that gaze. Not pity, not mercy. Something colder, hungrier, the first thin thread of obsession. Woven so quietly neither of them yet recognized it for what it was. Elian kept humming. The dark listened. Chapter 5. The courtier's falling sphere. The great hall of the obsidian citadel had been transformed. Black marble floors gleamed under 100 crystal chandeliers that dripped with blood-red light. Actual blood, enchanted to hang in perfect droplets and refract like rubies. Long tables groaned under platters of crystal goblets, and silver trays bearing no food, only living vessels. Humans bound in silk and silver chains, throats bare, eyes glazed with thrall. Music drifted from shadowed alcoves. Violins played by fingers that had once belonged to mortals, now preserved in undead. The air was thick with incense, wine, and the copper tang of anticipation. Draven had ordered Elian brought from the dungeon for the first time since his arrival. Not out of kindness. Not mercy. Curiosity, perhaps? Or the need to display a new acquisition? The guards had stripped him of the filthy rags he'd worn since capture and dressed him in something finer. A thin linen tunic the color of fresh snow, loose enough to slip from one shoulder, tight enough to remind everyone how fragile the body beneath it truly was. No shoes, no chains on his wrists tonight, only a single silver collar around his throat, engraved with Draven's personal sigil. A thorn-wreathed crown. The collar was light. It still felt like a noose. They led him to the foot of the dais where Draven sat on a throne carved from a single slab of volcanic glass. The king wore black velvet tonight, edged in crimson thread that matched his eyes. He did not look at Elian as the boy was forced to his knees at his side. He merely extended one gloved hand and rested it on the top of Elian's bowed head, fingers threading through pale hair in a gesture that could have been affectionate if it weren't so possessive. The court noticed. They noticed everything. The banquet unfolded in slow, decadent waves. Goblets were filled from living throat. Laughter rose and fell like tide. Courtiers drifted past the dais, offering compliments to the king. their eyes sliding sideways to the kneeling figure at his feet. Ilian kept his gaze on the floor. He had learned in the dark of the cell that looking up invited attention he could not afford. Then Lord Virus approached. Varys was one of the older nobles, turned in the last century, still vain about the beauty he'd carried into Undine. Silver hair swept back, features sharp as cut crystal, mouth always curved in the half-smile of someone who believed himself untouchable. He carried a goblet of fresh blood, and stopped before the dais with exaggerated courtesy. "My king," he purred, bowing low, "your hospitality is, as ever, exquisite." Draven inclined his head a fraction. "Permission to continue." Varys' gaze slid to Ilian. His smile widened, showing fang. "And this delightful creature. I confess I've heard whispers, may I?" He did not wait for an answer. One pale hand reached down. Long fingers, adorned with onyx rings, brushed the side of Ilian's throat, tracing the silver collar, then slipping beneath the linen to graze bare collarbone. The touch was light, almost teasing. Ilian went rigid. The hall did not fall silent at once. It took a heartbeat for the nearest courtiers to notice the shift in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. Draven's hand tightened in Ilian's hair. "Not enough to hurt." "Yea." Varys laughed softly. "Such fragile warmth. I wonder how long it would last under proper attention." He leaned closer, fangs extending just enough to brush the shell of Ilian's ear. That was the moment. Draven moved. There was no warning growl, no dramatic rise from the throne. 1 second he was seated. The next he was across the dais in a blur of black velvet and crimson eyes. His hand closed around Varys's, wrist like a manacle forged from night itself. Varys froze, smile faltering. Draven twisted. Bone snapped, clean, audible. Varys hissed in pain. Before he could pull away, Draven's other hand drove into his chest, claws punching through velvet and flesh and ribcage with surgical precision. Blood sprayed in a wide arc. It struck Ilian across the face and chest. Warm, shocking, metallic. The hall went deathly quiet. Draven ripped his hand free, bringing a still-beating heart with it. Varys stared down at the gaping hole in his torso, mouth working soundlessly. Draven crushed the heart in his fist. Blood and tissue oozed between his fingers. Then, with deliberate slowness, he tore Varys's head from his shoulders. The body crumpled. The head he held aloft by the silver hair, letting blood drip onto the marble in fat, dark drops. He turned to the court. No one moved. Draven dropped the head. It rolled once, twice, and stopped at the foot of the dais, eyes wide and glassy. Then he looked down at Ilian. The boy was spattered with gore, cheeks, throat, the white linen now ruined crimson. He had not flinched, not screamed. He simply stared up at Draven with those luminous green eyes, wide but steady. Draven crouched. He caught Ilian's chin in blood-slick fingers and tilted his face up. Slowly, deliberately. He leaned in and dragged his tongue along the boy's cheek, licking away a streak of Varys blood. The gesture was intimate, possessive. "Ah, filthy, mean," Draven said, the word carried to every corner of the hall. "To break, to bleed, to keep, no one else touches what is mine." He released Ilian's face and rose. "Continue the feast," he told the court. No one dared disobey. The music resumed. Laughter returned, nervous, brittle. Goblets were raised again, but the whispers had already begun. They slithered through the hall like smoke. "Wife, king killed for a human. One young and untouched and Varys is ash. Well, he had never been so particular dial. Yes, the boy a weakness? Enjoy here a weapon? 1-9. Draven returned to his throne. He drew Ilian up, not gently, and settled the boy against his side on the wide seat, one arm draped around narrow shoulders, in a mockery of protection. Elian's bloody tunic pressed against black velvet. No one met their eyes. Later, when the last of the living wine had been drained, and the hall began to empty, Draven leaned down to Elian's ear. "You did not beg," he murmured. "Not once." Elian said nothing. Draven's fingers tightened on his shoulder, bruising. "Good," he whispered. "Begging bores me. But know this, every whisper in this court tonight is a blade aimed at your throat. And if they think you make me soft—" His voice dropped lower, colder. "I will prove them wrong on your skin." He rose, pulling Elian with him. The guards fell in behind as they left the hall. Behind them, the whispers followed, quiet, persistent, growing. Draven heard everyone, and in the shadowed corridors of his own mind, something new stirred. Not fear exactly. Paranoia. Sharp. Cold. Inevitable. He tightened his grip on Elian's arm until the boy winced. No one would take this fragile thing from him. Not while he still breathed. Not while he still bled. And certainly not while he still belonged, body, blood, and breaking, to Draven alone. When Chapter 6, Fractured Alliances, and the whispers had teeth. Draven heard them everywhere now, in the rustle of velvet cloaks as courtiers passed in the halls, in the pauses between toasts at lesser gatherings, in the flicker of candle flames that seemed to lean toward secrets. Wei, King slays his own for a human pet. Wavaires was no threat, yet reduced to carrion. Wanda, fragile boy clouds his judgment. Distraction breeds opportunity. Words coiled around him like smoke from a poison fire, stoking the paranoia that had taken root after the banquet. He tested his inner circle first. Subtle probes, a feigned vulnerability in counsel, eyes sharp on every face. Lord Kale, silver-tongued advisor with a scar across his throat from some long-forgotten war, faltered once. Too long a glance at Elian during a briefing. But it was in the shadowed alcove behind the throne room that Draven caught them solid. Two nobles, Kale and a lesser house lord named Thorn, voices low but carrying to Draven's preternatural ears as he lingered unseen in the gloom. "The raids on our trade routes grow bolder because Draven chases ghosts for that ye mortally whim," Kale hissed. Varys spoke truth. "The boy weakens him. Sell Ilian back to the traffickers, pocket the gold, and let rivals tear the fortress apart. We crown ourselves from the rubble." Thorn chuckled, wet and eager. The human's blood would seal alliances. Draven's rage blinds him. Perfect timing. Draven stepped from shadow before Thorn could draw breath. Claws extended in a flash. He pinned Kale to the wall by the throat, the stone cracking under the force. Thorn's head he took clean off. One twist. Arterial spray painting the tapestry behind. Kale gasped, eyes bulging. "You plot while I bleed for your empire?" Draven's voice was ice over razor. "Blame the boy. He's the whetstone for my blade." Kale choked out a plea. Draven's free hand plunged into his chest, twisting until ribs splintered. He withdrew the heart still fibrillating, and crushed it to pulp, letting the ruin drip onto Kale's boots. "Clean this," Draven snarled to the guards who materialized, "and spread word. Next whispers lose more than hearts." He stalked away, blood slicking his gloves, fury a live wire under his skin. The boy, always the boy, pivot for every blade. Ilian waited in the vault, chained as always, the silver collar from the banquet still locked around his throat. Draven didn't bother with torches this time. He slammed the door open, the boom echoing like judgment. Ilian flinched but didn't cower. Those green eyes lifted, steady, soft. Draven crossed the cell in 2 strides. He seized Ilian by the collar, yanking him up until toes scraped stone. The chain rattled taut. You, Draven spat, breath hot against Elian's face. They die for you. Plots flower because I spare your worthless hide. Hate me, worm. Curse me. Give me reason to end this farce. He struck, fist to gut, precise enough to bruise ribs without shattering them. Elian gasped, doubling as far as the chains allowed. Another blow, backhand across the jaw, splitting lip anew. Blood welled, trickling down chin. Hate! Draven demanded again, shaking him like a rag doll. Scream it, beg, I break in Thailand. Elian coughed, blood flecking Draven's sleeve. But his free hand, trembling, deliberate, rose. Fingers brushed Draven's cheek, soft as moth wings, tracing the line of a fresh scar from Thorn's final threat. No fear in the touch. Only pity? Comfort? The gentleness ignited something feral. Draven froze, then crashed forward, mouth seizing Elian's in a brutal collision. No tenderness, teeth clashing, fangs nicking lip to mingle blood, hand fisting pale hair to hold him captive. It was conquest, punishment, tongue invading, demanding surrender. Elian gasped into it, body yielding soft where Draven crushed hard. The kiss dragged eternity from seconds, Draven's growl vibrating between them, possession warring with the unwelcome heat coiling low. He wrenched back first, crimson eyes wild, conflicted, revulsion at his own hunger twisting with the thrill of unbroken fragility. You're poison, he snarled, shoving Elian away. The boy slumped against the wall, lips swollen, eyes dazed but luminous. Draven fled the cell, door slamming like thunder. Fury needed outlet. He summoned his vanguard at midnight, 24 elite, cloaks black as void. Intelligence had placed a trafficking outpost 3 leagues north, pens crammed with fresh stock, gold flowing to rival clans. Perfect. They rode like storm. Draven at point, horse a shadow beast foaming at bit. The outpost loomed in moonless dark, wooden palisades, torchlit yards alive with whimpers. Guards patrolled lazy, counting coin. Draven hit first. He vaulted the wall, claws rending the nearest sentry throat to navel in one fluid tear. Alarms shattered silence. Vanguard poured it over, blade singing. Draven carved through like plague. One trafficker's arm wrenched free at shoulder, used as club to cave another's skull. A third begged. Draven's boot crushed windpipe mid-plea. Pence splintered under his fury. Locks snapped, humans spilling out. Gaunt, chained, eyes, animal-wide. Run! Draven roared at them, voice thunder. Or join your jailers. They fled into woods, shadows swallowing sobs of thanks and terror. By dawn's edge, the outpost smoked ruin, bodies stacked, flames devouring ledgers of flesh auctions. Draven stood amid embers, gore to elbows, breath steady. Vindicated, but hollow. The cycle unbroken, just shifted. Back at the fortress, he dragged Elian from the vault. No chains this time. He shoved a water skin and bread into the boy's hands, first sustenance in days. Then hauled him to the ramparts overlooking charred tree line. See? Draven gripped Elian's shoulder, bruising. I avenge your kind. Rivals bleed for trafficking their wheat. Elian stared at the smoke. His face, still marked from the beating, crumpled not in gratitude, but quiet grief. Tears traced paths through dried blood. He knelt, pressing torn bread to earth as if for ghosts. Not vengeance, Elian whispered, voice fragile thread. Just more scars. They hurt like we do. Draven's hand twitched, to strike, to silence. Instead, he yanked Elian up, cloaking him in his own blood-crusted mantle against dawn chill. Grieve if you must, he growled, conflicted storm raging inward. But you're mine to scar now. He left Elian there, wrapped in king shadow, whispers of distant plots already regrowing in the court's poisoned soil. The obsession deepened, thread to chain, pulling ruthless king toward something he despised. Chapter 7. Cloaked in suspicion. The fortress had begun to feel like a cage of its own making. Whispers no longer slithered in corners. They crawled openly through the corridors, carried on every breath of cold air. Draven felt them like fingers at his throat. Every bowed head in the council chamber, every lingering glance from a guard, every pause in conversation. All potential blades. Gale and Thorn's executions had silenced the loudest voices, but the rot had spread deeper. Rival clans, smelling weakness, had begun to probe. The first forged document arrived in the dead of night, slipped under the war room door like a lover's note. It was a letter, supposedly from a minor house lord in the eastern marshes, offering a bounty. 10,000 crowns for the human pet delivered alive. The seal was perfect, the handwriting flawless. Too flawless. Draven burned it in the hearth, but the words lingered in his mind like smoke. He started keeping Elian closer. Not out of tenderness. Possession demanded vigilance. During the rare times he allowed the boy out of the vault. Short walks in the inner courtyards, supervised audiences where Draven could watch every eye. Elian wore Draven's own cloak. Heavy black wool lined with crimson silk, the hem dragging on stone. The collar still warm from the king's body. It swallowed the boy whole, making him look smaller, more fragile. A mark of ownership that no one could mistake. Elian never protested. He simply drew the cloak tighter around himself. When the wind cut through the battlements, green eyes downcast, silent. But when Draven left the fortress, raids, border patrols, executions, Elian was returned to the vault. Chained again. The same iron ring. The same length of chain. Draven would snap the manacle himself, fingers lingering on the boy's wrist, tracing the bruises he'd left days before. "You stay here," he'd murmur, voice low. "No one touches what's mine while I'm gone." Elian would nod, soft and obedient. Draven hated that obedience almost as much as he craved it. The tension thickened like blood congealing. One evening, Elian was allowed into the servants' corridor, escorted by 2 guards, the cloak still draped over his shoulders. Draven was in council. The boy had been permitted to fetch fresh water from the cistern. The guards spoke freely, assuming the human too broken to understand or repeat. "Heard the eastern clans are offering double now," one muttered, voice low. "Alive and unmarked. They say he's worth more than a war chest." The other laughed, harsh, ugly. "King's pet? More like king's weakness. If we deliver him quiet-like, we could buy our own estates. No more scraping for scraps." Elian froze behind the cistern, water slushing over the rim of the bucket. His heart hammered so loud he feared they'd hear it. The guards continued, voices fading as they walked away. He carried the bucket back to the vault in silence. The guards locked him in without a word. When Draven returned that night, blood still on his gloves from putting down a border skirmish, he found Elian sitting against the wall, knees drawn up, the cloak pooled around him like spilled ink. The boy's face was pale, eyes shadowed. Draven crouched before him. "What is it?" Elian hesitated. Then, voice barely above a whisper, "The guards, they spoke of selling me. For gold, double what the others offer." Draven went still. He rose slowly. The air in the cell seemed to thicken, grow colder. He left without a word. An hour later, screams echoed through the fortress. The 2 guards were dragged to the great hall. Draven stood on the dais, crimson eyes burning. The court watched in silence as he questioned them, calm, methodical. They confessed quickly. Too quickly. Draven's claws tore through flesh anyway, slow, deliberate. One guard's tongue was removed first, for speaking treason. The other's hands, for daring to think of touching what belonged to the king. The bodies were left hanging from the battlements as warning. But the damage was done. Draven returned to the vault at dawn. Ilian was still awake, curled under the cloak. Draven unchained him, rough, impatient, then pulled him close, fingers digging into narrow shoulders. "You heard them," Draven said. Not a question. Ilian nodded. Draven's gaze searched the boy's face, searching for deceit, for manipulation, for anything that would justify the rage boiling under his skin. "You are the cause," Draven whispered. "Every plot, every blade, they all point to you." Ilian lifted a hand, slow, careful, and rested it against Draven's chest, over the heart that no longer beat. The touch was light, warm, steady. "Not me," Ilian said softly. "Your fear." Draven's breath caught. He seized Ilian's wrist, hard enough to bruise, but did not pull away. Instead, he pressed the boy's palm harder against his own chest, as though testing for a pulse that wasn't there. "I fear nothing," Draven lied. But the lie tasted bitter. He released Ilian and stepped back, cloak still draped over the boy's shoulders like a shroud. "You will wear this always now," he said. "Inside these walls. Outside. Everywhere. Let them see. Let them know." Ilian bowed his head. "As you command." Draven left him chained again, looser this time, enough to move a few paces. A concession he hated himself for making. In the corridors beyond, the whispers had not stopped. They had grown quieter, cautious, waiting. Draven felt them closing in. And for the first time in centuries, the king wondered if the greatest threat to his throne was not the rivals at his gates, but the gentle thing he kept chained in the dark, a thing he could no longer bear to release. Ambush in the woods. The forest north of the citadel had always been a graveyard waiting to happen. Ancient pines stood like sentinels, their needles muffling sound, until the moment it was too late. Draven had chosen this route for the monthly patrol precisely because it was treacherous, better to flush traitors in places where they thought they could hide. He rode at the head of 20 riders, black cloaks blending with the gloom, horses shod with silent leather wraps. No banners, no horns, just the low creak of saddles and the occasional snort of steam from flared nostrils. They never reached the border ridge. The first arrow came from nowhere, black-fletched, silent, and punched through the throat of the rider directly behind Draven. The man gargled once, toppled sideways, boot caught in the stirrup. His horse screamed and bolted. Chaos erupted. Crossbow bolts hissed from the underbrush like angry wasps. 2 more riders fell before they could draw steel. Draven's mount reared as a shaft grazed its flank. He twisted in the saddle, claws extended, scanning the trees. Shadows moved. Too many, too coordinated. Ambush. He roared a command that cut through the din. Form wedge, cut through. His vanguard obeyed, blades flashing, carving toward the thickest knot of attackers. Draven himself leapt from the saddle mid-charge, landing in a crouch amid snapping branches. A cloaked figure lunged from the left, steel glinted. Draven caught the wrist, snapped it, then drove his claws up under the jaw and through the skull. The body dropped like a sack, but they kept coming. A second wave burst from the right flank, masked, armored in dark mail, bearing the faint scent of rival clan incense. One got close enough to rake a blade across Draven's ribs before the king tore the attacker's arm free at the shoulder, and used it to batter another aside. Blood, his own and theirs, ran hot down his side. Pain was distant, secondary. Rage sharpened everything. They fought for what felt like hours, but was barely minutes. Draven's vanguard whittled the attackers down to stragglers. The survivors melted back into the trees like smoke. When the last scream faded, only 7 of his 20 riders remained standing. The rest lay in broken heaps among the roots. Draven stood amid the carnage, chest heaving, coat torn open to reveal a long gash, weeping dark blood. His left forearm bore a deep slice from elbow to wrist, clean, deliberate, meant to slow rather than kill. He flexed the hand, fingers obeyed, but sluggishly. He looked at the survivors. Every face was pale, every eye wide. Loyalty or fear, he could no longer tell the difference. "Burn the bodies," he ordered. "Ours and theirs. Leave nothing for scavengers." They obeyed without question. He remounted alone, ignoring the offered aid, and rode back to the citadel in silence. The wound on his ribs throbbed in time with his horse's gait. Each jolt reminded him someone had known the patrol route. Someone had sold it. Back at the fortress, he did not go to the war room. He went straight to the vault. Elian was sitting against the wall when the door opened, knees drawn up under Draven's cloak, silver collar catching the torchlight. He looked up, green eyes widening at the sight of blood, torn fabric, the king's face carved with lines of fury and exhaustion. Draven crossed the cell in 3 strides. He seized Elian by the front of the tunic and hauled him to his feet, slamming him back against the stone hard enough to knock breath from lungs. "You!" Draven snarled. "Did you know?" Elian gasped, hands coming up instinctively, not to fight, but to steady himself against Draven's chest. "No." "What?" "Don't play innocent." Draven's grip tightened until fabric tore. The ambush, the route. Someone fed them every step, someone inside these walls. And every blade pointed at me tonight carried the same stink of opportunity. The opportunity you created by existing. Elian shook his head, slow, pained. "I've been here, chained. I hear nothing but echoes." Draven leaned in until their faces were inches apart. Blood from his arm dripped onto Elian's collarbone, mixing with the faint scent of old fear and newer violence. "Then why do they keep coming for me?" he hissed. "Why do they risk everything to take what's mine unless they think it will break me?" Elian's hand, trembling, rose again. This time it settled gently against the torn fabric over Draven's ribs, where blood still seeped. Not pressing, not pulling away, just there. Warm, bony gold, steady. "Because they fear you," Elian whispered. "Not me. You." Draven went motionless. The gentleness of the touch, soft against raw wound, cracked something in the king's iron composure. Not wide, just a hairline fracture, enough for doubt to slip through. He released Elian abruptly, stepping back as though burned. The boy slid down the wall, breathing shallow, eyes never leaving Draven's face. For a long moment neither spoke. Then Draven turned on his heel and left. Dawn found the great courtyard packed with the entire court, vampires and thralls alike, forced to witness. A single figure knelt in chains at the center. Captain Darius, one of Draven's oldest border commanders. The man who had carried the patrol map the night before. The man whose lieutenant had conveniently fallen ill and stayed behind. No trial. No confession extracted in private. Draven stood above him on the raised platform, still wearing the bloodied coat from the ambush, now dried to stiff black crusts. He held no weapon. He didn't need one. "Darius," he said, voice carrying to every corner of the yard. "You sold my root. You sold my blood." Darius lifted his head. "My king, I—" Draven's claws flashed once, downward, through collarbone and chest in a single brutal arc. The captain's body jerked, then slumped forward, heart impaled on extended talons. Draven withdrew them slowly, letting the corpse slide off like discarded meat. He lifted the still-beating organ high. "Let this be lesson enough," he said to the silent crowd. "Loyalty is not earned. It is enforced. The next traitor will not die so quickly." He crushed the heart in his fist. Blood sprayed in a wide arc, spattering the nearest courtiers. No one flinched. No one dared. The body was left on display until dusk, chained upright, a warning in flesh. Draven returned to the vault that night. Ilian had not moved from where he'd been left. The cloak was still wrapped around him, now stained with fresh drops of the king's blood. Draven stood in the doorway, watching the boy for a long time. Then, quietly, almost too quiet for cruelty, he said, "You did not beg for him." Ilian looked up. "He shows his path." Draven stepped inside. The door closed behind him. For the first time, he did not chain Ilian tighter. He simply sat back against the opposite wall, knees drawn up, crimson eyes fixed on the fragile thing across from him. Neither spoke, but in the silence, the fracture in Draven's facade widened, just a fraction. And the king, for the first time in centuries, felt the weight of something heavier than paranoia. Something dangerously close to trust. Chapter 9. The Masquerade of Deceaches. The Grand Masquerade was not a celebration. It was a battlefield disguised as one. Every year, on the longest night of winter, the Obsidian Citadel opened its halls to every vampire lord who still drew breath and could afford the invitation. Masks were mandatory. Elaborate things of black lace, raven feathers, gold filigree, ivory carved into snarling beasts. Faces hidden, intentions bare. Alliances were forged in shadowed corners, betrayals sealed with a single glance. Draven hosted it because tradition demanded it. He hated every second. This year, the air tasted of iron and anticipation. Ilian was brought from the vault at dusk. No chains tonight. Only the silver collar and Draven's cloak draped over his shoulders like a second skin. The king had stood over him while servants dressed him. Black silk trousers, a loose white shirt open at the throat, sleeves rolled to expose slender wrists still marked by faint bruises. The cloak was fastened with a heavy silver clasp shaped like a thorn. Draven had leaned in close, nose brushing Ilian's hair, inhaling deeply. "My scent on you," he murmured. "Let them smell it. Let them choke on it." Ilian had said nothing. He never did when Draven marked him this way. The great ballroom was transformed. Chandeliers dripped molten crimson light from enchanted crystals. Mirrors lined the walls, reflecting endless masked figures in an illusion of infinity. Music, dark violins, and a low, throbbing drum wove through the crowd like smoke. Vampires danced in slow, predatory circles, partners chosen for power rather than pleasure. Humans were scattered among them, some collared and led on leashes, others serving as living goblets, throats bared for anyone bold enough to drink. Draven kept Ilian at his side for the first hour. One hand rested possessively on the boy's lower back. Fingers splayed wide enough to span narrow ribs. Every courtier who approached bowed low, eyes sliding to the human in the king's shadow. Compliments dripped like venom. "Exquisite acquisition, my lord." "Nantian, arege such delicate porcelain." "Yeah, how long before it cracks?" Draven answered each with a cold smile and a tightening grip on Ilian. Then the king was called away, some eastern envoy demanding private audience. He leaned down to Ilian's ear. "Stay in sight. Move, and I'll chain you to the throne next time." Ilian nodded once. Draven disappeared into a side corridor. The boy waited 5 minutes, long enough for the crowd to swirl and shift, then slipped toward the nearest balcony doors. The air inside had grown too thick, too many eyes pressing against his skin. He needed one breath of night. The balcony overlooked the mist-choked valley. Cold wind cut through the silk, but it was clean. Ilian leaned against the stone railing, cloak billowing like wings, and closed his eyes. Footsteps, soft, deliberate, approached from behind. He turned. 3 masked figures stood between him and the doors. Black cloaks, featureless porcelain masks, with slits for eyes. The leader stepped forward. His mask was cracked along one cheek, revealing scarred flesh beneath. A jagged line ran from temple to jaw, old wound, badly healed. Alien knew that scar. The trafficker from the convoy, the one who had first appraised him in the rain-soaked wagon. Too pretty for the common lots. By Nitianan, Aster no wisdom want to hex. You, the man wrathed, voice muffled by the mask but unmistakable. Cost me a fortune when your king burned my pence. Time to collect with interest. The other two moved, flanking, blades drawn. Short, curved daggers, edges gleaming blue in the moonlight. Alien backed against the railing. No scream. No plea. He only lifted his chin. Hell come, he said quietly. And when he does, there won't be enough of you left to mourn. The scarred man laughed. Low, ugly. He's busy playing king, and you're bleeding tonight. He lunged. The blade sliced deep across Elian's left forearm, clean, deliberate, meant to open veins without killing outright. Blood welled fast, hot and dark, soaking the white sleeve in seconds. Pain flared white-hot. Elian gasped, clutching the wound, but he didn't cry out. He slid down the railing to one knee, blood pooling on the stone. The assassins closed in. Then the doors exploded inward. Draven came through like apocalypse given form. No mask, no pretense. Crimson eyes blazing, coat torn open, claws fully extended. He moved faster than sight. First assassin's throat opened in a red smile before the man could turn. The second tried to run. Draven caught him by the hair, yanked his head back, and drove fangs through the side of his neck, tearing carotid in a single savage pull. Blood sprayed in an arc across the balcony, painting Elian's face and chest anew. The scarred leader backed away, dagger raised. Draven dropped the second body and advanced, slow now, deliberate. You touched him, he said, voice calm. Terrifyingly calm. The trafficker laughed again, nervous, cracking. Your weakness is showing, King. One human pet and you slaughter your own court. How long before they turn on you? Draven tilted his head. Long enough to finish you. He moved. Claws punched through the man's shoulder, pinning him to the stone wall. The trafficker screamed. Draven twisted, bone grinding. Then he leaned in close. Tell your masters, Draven whispered, that the next one who comes for what's mine will not leave with a message. They will leave in pieces mailed to their heirs. He ripped the claws free. The trafficker slumped, clutching the wound, blood pouring between fingers. Draven stepped back. The man staggered toward the railing, toward escape. Draven made no move to stop him. He watched as the trafficker vaulted the balustrade and vanished into the mist below. A taunting laugh drifted upward, faint but clear. Your softness will bury you both. Silence fell. Draven turned. Alien was still on his knees, blood soaking the cloak, face pale as death. The wound on his arm pulsed steadily, too deep, too fast. He looked up at Draven with those luminous green eyes, now glassy with pain. Draven crossed the balcony in 2 strides. He dropped to one knee, tore a strip from his own coat, and bound the wound tight. Raw efficient, but trembling at the edges. Blood soaked through the fabric almost immediately. Stay with me, Draven growled. Not a command. A plea masked as one. Alien's free hand lifted, slow, shaking, and touched Draven's cheek. Blood smeared crimson across pale skin. I'm here. Alien whispered. Draven scooped him up, cloak and all, cradling the boy against his chest. Alien's head lolled against his shoulder, breath shallow. The king carried him through the ballroom. Courtiers parted like water before a blade. Masks turned. Whispers died. Every eye followed the king and the bloodied human in his arms. Draven did not look at them. He carried Alien straight to the royal chambers, past guards, past servants, past every staring face, and kicked the doors shut behind them. In the silence of the vast room, he laid Alien on black silk sheet. The boy's blood stained the fabric like spilled wine. Draven knelt beside the bed, pressing his wrist to the wound again, forcing his own blood into the cut to slow the bleeding. "Live," he snarled, voice cracking for the first time in centuries. "I command it." Elian's fingers found Draven's hand. Weak Doyle. Warm. "Not your command," he breathed. "Just stay." Draven bowed his head, forehead resting against Elian's bound arm. Outside, in the halls, the masquerade continued. Music playing, laughter rising, masks smiling. But the message had been delivered. The king's weakness bled on silk sheets. And the king, ruthless, merciless, eternal, had never looked more afraid. A blood-stained revelation. The royal chambers were vast and silent, lit only by a single brazier of black iron that cast long, flickering shadows across obsidian wall. Draven kicked the heavy door shut behind him with enough force to rattle the hinges. Alien's blood had already soaked through the torn silk of his shirt and the hem of the king's cloak. Warm, sticky trails ran down Draven's forearms, where he cradled the boy against his chest. He crossed the room in 3 strides and laid Alien on the wide bed. Black velvet sheets, pillows edged in crimson thread. The contrast made the boy look even paler, like something carved from moonlight and already beginning to fade. Alien's breaths came shallow, ragged. His left arm lay limp at his side, the makeshift bandage Draven had tied on the balcony now sodden crimson. Blood pooled beneath him, spreading in slow, dark flowers across the velvet. Draven knelt beside the bed. His own coat was still torn open from the ambush in the woods. The gash on his ribs had stopped bleeding hours ago, but fresh streaks of Alien's blood painted his pale skin. He tore open his wrist with his own fangs, quick, brutal, then pressed the wound to Alien's sliced forearm, forcing the flow directly into the gash. "Drink it," he snarled. "Through the cut. Through your fucking veins. La vie." Alien's eyelids fluttered. A soft, pained sound escaped his lips. Not quite a whimper, more an exhale of surrender. His free hand lifted weakly, fingers brushing Draven's forearm, as if to steady himself. The king's blood seeped into the wound. Dark tendrils of it crawled beneath pale skin like ink in water, knitting torn flesh with unnatural speed. The bleeding slowed, stopped, but Alien's face remained ashen, lips bloodless. Draven kept his wrist pressed there long after the flow was no longer needed. His other hand gripped Alien's shoulder, too hard, bruising, holding him down as though the boy might dissolve if released. "You do not get to die," Draven whispered, voice low and vicious. "Not from some scarred rat's blade. Not from anything less than a Mickey. Do you understand? I decide when this ends." Alien's eyes opened, glassy, unfocused, but still that impossible green. He looked up at Draven as though seeing him for the first time. "Not your decision," he breathed. "Not anymore." Draven's grip tightened until Alien winced. Then slowly, almost against his will, he loosened his fingers. He withdrew his wrist, licking the last traces of his own blood from the skin. The wound on Alien's arm was closed now, only a thin pink line remaining, already fading. The boy would live. Draven stood, paced once, twice, across the room like a caged beast. The brazier flames snapped and hissed. He stopped at the foot of the bed, staring down at Alien, sprawled, bloodied, fragile. Who is he? The realization struck like cold steel between ribs. This attachment, This need to keep the boy breathing, unbroken, was a chink in armor centuries in the forging. Every rival clan knew it now. Every courtier who had watched him carry Elian through the masquerade had seen it. The king who had once raised cities without blinking had just torn through his own ballroom for one human's blood. Vulnerability, weakness, and yet the thought of letting Alien bleed out on that balcony had ignited something primal, something he could not name and did not want to. Jealousy followed, hot, corrosive. The scarred trafficker had touched him, cut him, marked him. Others would try. They always would. Draven returned to the bed. He climbed onto the mattress, knees bracketing Alien's hips, looming over him. The boy looked up, exhausted but unafraid. Draven caught Elian's chin, forcing eye contact. "You belong to me," he said, voice rough. "Every breath, every heartbeat, every drop of blood in your veins. No one else gets to take that from you. Not assassins, not courtiers, not even death." Elian's hand rose, slow, deliberate, and rested against Draven's chest again, over the place where a heart no longer beat. "Then why do you sound afraid?" he asked softly. Draven's fangs flashed. He leaned down until their foreheads nearly touched. "I am not afraid," he lied. "I me possessive." Then he kissed him. Not the brutal collision of the night he'd demanded hatred. This was slower, cruel in its restraint. Draven's mouth moved over Elian's with deliberate care, tasting blood and salt, and the faint sweetness that still clung to the boy despite everything. One hand slid into pale hair, fisting gently. The other pinned Elian's uninjured wrist above his head. The kiss deepened, fangs grazing lip, drawing a single bead of fresh blood that Draven licked away with slow, deliberate strokes. Elian made a small sound, half pain, half something else. His body arched instinctively toward the weight above him. Draven growled low in his throat, pressing closer, letting the boy feel every inch of the cruelty and hunger warring inside him. He broke the kiss only when Elian's breaths turned ragged again, not from the wound, but from the press of Draven's body, the heat of his mouth, the unyielding grip. Draven rested his forehead against Elian's, crimson eyes half-lidded. "I could kill you right now," he whispered. "Drain you dry. End this before it undoes me." Elian's free hand lifted, trembling, and cupped Draven's jaw. "You won't," he said simply. Draven laughed, short, bitter. "You have too much faith in monsters." "No," Elian murmured. "I have faith in Yanxi." The words landed like a blade. Draven bent still. For a long moment neither moved. Then Draven rolled to the side, pulling Elian with him until the boy was tucked against his chest, head under chin, legs tangled, the blood-crusted cloak still draped over them both like a shroud. Draven's arm locked around narrow waist, possessive, protective, almost tender. He buried his face in Elian's hair and inhaled, deep, ragged. "Sleep," he ordered, voice hoarse. "Heal. And when you wake, remember this. Anyone who tries to take you from me again will beg for the mercy I will not give." Elian's fingers curled loosely in Draven's torn shirt. "I know," he whispered. The brazier burned low. Outside, the masquerade wound down, laughter fading, masks discarded, plots whispered in departing shadows. Inside the chamber, the king held his fragile obsession like something precious and poisonous. Cruelty battled something softer, something terrifying. And for the first time in an eternity, Draven did not know which would win. Why Chapter 11. Festering Wounds. Audio. The wound on Elian's arm should have healed cleanly. Vampire blood had sealed the flesh, knitting muscle and skin with ruthless efficiency. Yet 3 nights after the masquerade, the scar began to weep. It started as a thin line of pink that refused to fade. Then came the heat. Low, persistent, radiating outward, until the entire forearm felt like it had been dipped in coals. By the fourth night, Elian woke drenched in sweat, shivering despite the brazier's glow. The scar had split open again. Not a clean cut, but ragged, inflamed, as though the body itself rejected the foreign blood that had saved it. He tried to hide it. Draven found him anyway. The king entered the royal chambers at midnight, still wearing the same coat he'd worn to the war council, stained with fresh ink and older blood. Elian sat on the edge of the bed, sleeve rolled up, pressing a damp cloth to the reopened wound. His face was drawn, eyes glassy with fever. The cloak, Draven's cloak, lay discarded on the floor like shed skin. Draven crossed the room in silence. He knelt before Elian without a word, caught the boy's wrist, and turned the arm to the light. The scar wept dark fluid, streaked with faint threads of crimson that should have been his own blood. Why? Draven's voice was flat. Dangerous. Elian swallowed. I don't know. It won't stay closed. Draven's fingers tightened until Elian hissed in pain. Then he released him abruptly and stood. He began to pace, slow, predatory circuits around the bed, boots striking stone in measured rhythm. His shadow stretched and contracted with every pass, a restless beast caged in velvet and fury. He had not slept since the masquerade. Not truly. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it again. Elian on his knees on the balcony, blood pooling beneath him, green eyes dimming. The vision looped, relentless. Sometimes the boy died in his arms. Sometimes he simply faded, dissolving into mist while Draven's hands passed through empty air. And now the body was failing from within. Messengers arrived at dawn with the first ultimatum. A sealed scroll, delivered by a trembling courier who would not meet Draven's eyes. The parchment bore the crest of House Verne, eastern rivals whose trafficking routes Draven had systematically razed. The message was brief. Zorunda, the human, unharmed, within 7 nights. Or we open every vein in your empire, until the boy is the only thing left breathing. Jainen. Draven read it once, then fed it to the brazier, and watched the edges blacken. By noon the second arrived. House Lirath, offering twice the gold and promising a slow death for every day the boy remained in the citadel. By dusk, 3 more. Each one landed like a stone in still water. Ripples of dread spread through the fortress. Guards doubled at every gate. Arrow slits were manned around the clock. The armory rang with the sound of sharpening steel. Draven oversaw it all. Cold, methodical, merciless. He ordered the outer walls reinforced with iron spikes dipped in silver nitrate. Moats were deepened and filled with running water channeled from mountain springs. Vampires could cross it. But not quickly. Traps were set in the approaches. Pits lined with stakes, tripwires rigged to drop cages of sunlight-forged glass. Yet none of it eased the knot in his chest. He returned to the chambers at midnight. Elian lay curled on his side, fever bright, breaths shallow. The reopened wound had spread faint red lines up his forearm like poisoned root. Draven sat on the bed's edge, reached out, hesitated, then brushed sweat-damp hair from the boy's forehead. The touch lingered. "You're burning," he said quietly. Elian opened his eyes. Sorry." Draven's jaw clenched. "Don't apologize. Not for this." He rose again. Paced. The room felt smaller every circuit. Then the door opened without a knock. Lord Zoran, Draven's longest-serving advisor, the one who had stood at his right hand through 3 centuries of war and purge, stepped inside. Tall, gaunt, silver hair bound in a warrior's knot. He carried a sealed missive and a look of grave concern. "My king," Soren began, bowing low. "Another demand has—" Draven moved. He had Soren pinned to the wall before the sentence finished. Claws through shoulder. body lifted off the floor. The missive fluttered to the stone. "You," Draven whispered. "You carried the patrol routes. You knew every guard rotation. You stood beside me when I burned the outposts." Zoran's eyes widened. "My lord, I would never." Draven's free hand tore open the advisor's tunic. Beneath the fabric hidden against pale skin was a small black sigil, freshly inked, still weeping. The mark of House Vern. Zoran's mouth opened in denial. Draven did not wait for words. He drove his claws into Soren's abdomen. Slow, deliberate. Flesh parted like wet silk. Intestines spilled in a steaming coil. Draven reached in, gripped, and pulled. Loops of gut slithered to the floor with wet slaps. Soren screamed, "Hi, animal," until Draven's other hand closed around his throat and squeezed until cartilage crunched. He disemboweled the traitor methodically, letting the entrails hang like grotesque banners. When Soren's struggles weakened to twitches, Draven ripped the heart free, still beating, and crushed it between his fingers. Blood sprayed in a wide arc, spattering the walls, the bed, Ilian's pale face where he watched from the sheets. Draven dropped the corpse. It slumped against the stone, ropes of intestine pooling around it like spilled rope. He turned to Ilian. The boy had not screamed, had not looked away. His fevered eyes were wide but steady. Draven crossed to the bed. Blood dripped from his hands onto the sheets as he knelt again. He wiped a streak of crimson from Elian's cheek with his thumb. Gentle, almost reverent. "They will not take you," he said. Voice raw. "I will burn this world to ash before I let them." Elian lifted a trembling hand. His fingers found Draven's bloodied ones and curled around them. "Then don't burn it alone," he whispered. Draven bowed his head, forehead resting against Elian's fever-hot brow. For the first time, the ruthless king did not pull away. Outside, the fortress bristled with steel and suspicion. Ultimatums piled on the war table like funeral invitations. Inside, two broken things clung to each other amid the reek of blood and betrayal. And the festering wound on Elian's arm, in Draven's soul, continued to bleed. When Chapter 12. The fevered plunge. The fever burned hottest on the 6th night. Elian no longer tried to hide it. He lay on the black sheets like a broken thing, shivering beneath layers of blankets and Draven's discarded cloak. Sweat darkened his pale hair to gold at the temples. His breaths came in shallow, rattling pulls. The reopened scar on his forearm had festered into angry red streaks that crawled toward his elbow, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Vampire blood had bought time, not cure. Human frailty fought the foreign essence like poison in the veins. Draven had not left the chamber since Soren's entrails had been mopped from the floor. He paced the perimeter of the bed in endless, silent loops, boots wearing faint grooves in the stone. Servants brought fresh water, clean cloths, vials of herbal infusions that smelled of willow and valerian. He took them from their hands without looking and applied them himself, cold compresses to forehead, careful dabs at the wound, fingers that trembled when they brushed fever-hot skin. He did not speak to Elian. Words felt too fragile, too close to confession. At the height of the delirium, just past midnight under a moonless sky that pressed black against the narrow windows, Elian stirred. His eyes opened, glassy, unfocused, the luminous green dulled to murky jade. He lifted one trembling hand from beneath the covers. Fingers found Raven's sleeve where the king had paused beside the bed, then slid upward, slow, deliberate, until they cupped the side of Draven's face. The touch was weak, warm, steady despite everything. Draven froze. Elian's cracked lips moved, voice barely a thread. "Don't lose yourself." Draven's breath caught, sharp audible in the silence. "Don't let this fight turn you into them," Elian whispered. "Into the ones who only know how to break. You're more than rage, more than blood. The king's hand came up instinctively, covering Elian's, pressing it harder against his cheek. Claws pricked pale skin but did not break it. "You're dying," Draven rasped. "And you waste breath on me?" Elian's thumb brushed the sharp line of Draven's cheekbone, gentle, forgiving. "Because you're afraid," he murmured. "And fear makes monsters crueler. Don't let it win." Something inside Draven cracked wide. Rage surged first, hot, blinding. How dare this fragile, failing thing see him so clearly? How dare he plead for the king's soul while his own slipped away? Draven's grip tightened until Elian's knuckles whitened. A low growl built in his throat. Yet beneath the fury lay something colder, heavier, recognition. The boy was right. Every ultimatum, every execution, every drop of blood spilled in the last weeks had been fueled by terror. Terror of losing this one soft, unyielding thing that refused to harden under his hands. And that terror was changing him, not into something stronger, into something smaller, meaner, more like the rivals who sent assassins and forged letters and demanded surrender. Draven released Elian's hand, stood, turned away. He crossed to the tall windows that overlooked the mist-choked valley. No moon tonight, only starless black, and the faint glow of distant watchfires from encircling enemy camps. The ultimatums had become threats of siege. Scouts reported banners massing at the foothills. Time was bleeding out faster than Elian's wound. Draven spoke without turning. "I will not let you die, human." Silence behind him, then a soft, pained exhale. "You would turn me?" Draven faced the bed again. Crimson eyes burned low. "I would make you eternal." He crossed back, knelt beside Elian once more. "But eternity is not gentle. The change will tear you apart, body, mind, soul. You will scream. You will beg. You will see things no living creature should see. And when it's done, you may not be the same light you are now. You may hate what you become. You may hate what you become. You may hate me for forcing it." Elian's fever-bright gaze never wavered. "I already know pain," he whispered. "I know loss. I know you." Draven's throat whirred. He reached out, brushed sweat-soaked strands from Elian's forehead with surprising tenderness. "The turning is not clean," he continued, voice threaded with dread he could no longer mask. "I will drain you to the edge of death. Drink until your heart stutters and stops. Then I will give you my blood. You must take it willingly, or the change fails, and you die anyway. The convulsions, the visions, they break stronger creatures than you. Your gentleness may not survive it. It may twist into something cruel, something like me." Elian's hand found Draven's again, squeezed weakly. "Then hold me through it," he said, "so I remember why I chose it." Draven bowed his head, forehead resting against Elian's for a long, shuddering moment. When he lifted it, decision had hardened his features. Ruthless, resolute, terrified. "Tonight," he said, "before the fever takes what's left." He rose, moved to the heavy oak table against the far wall. From a locked drawer he withdrew a small obsidian chalice. Simple, ancient, etched with faint runes that drank light rather than reflected it. He set it beside the bed. Then he returned to Elian. Carefully, almost reverently, he lifted the boy into his arms, sheets and all, and carried him to the center of the room where moonlight would have fallen if any had dared show itself. He laid Elian on a thick bearskin rug spread before the brazier, arranged pillows beneath his head, drew the cloak over him like a shroud. Draven knelt beside him once more. "I will not ask your permission," he said quietly, "because I cannot bear your refusal, but I will ask you to fight to come back to me." Elian's lips curved, small, tired, trusting, I will, he breathed. Draven leaned down, pressed his mouth to Elian's forehead, lingering cold lips against fever-hot skin. Then he gathered the boy close, one arm cradling shoulders, the other supporting his head, tilting it to expose the slender column of throat. Fangs extended with a soft, wet sound. Draven hesitated. 1 heartbeat, 2, then struck. Teeth pierced flesh cleanly. Blood flooded his mouth. Hot, sweet, laced with fever and fear, and that stubborn, unkillable gentleness. He drank slowly at first, savoring, memorizing. Then deeper, harder, touchful. Elian's pulse fluttered against his tongue, faltering, fading. A soft gasp, fingers clutching Draven's shirt. The king held him tighter, and under the moonless sky, with enemies at the gates and eternity hanging by a thread, Draven began the ritual that would either save the only light he had ever allowed near his darkness, or extinguish it forever. Chapter 13. The Bite of Eternity. The brazier had burned down to glowing coals, casting the chamber in a dim blood-orange haze. No servants remained. No guards stood outside the door. Draven had dismissed them all with a single low command that brooked no argument. The fortress beyond these walls could burn for all he cared tonight. Nothing mattered except the fragile weight in his arms. Elian lay on the bearskin rug, propped against pillows, the cloak drawn up to his chest like a final barrier against the cold that was already creeping into his bones. His fever had peaked and broken into a clammy chill. Breaths came in shallow, uneven sips. The scar on his arm no longer bled. It had simply stopped trying to heal. Skin stretched tight over ribs that showed too clearly. Green eyes, once luminous, now held only a faint flickering light. Draven knelt behind him, one arm cradling Elian's shoulders, the other supporting the nape of his neck. He had removed his torn coat. Shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows, forearms corded and scarred. His own blood still stained his lips from the shallow taste he'd taken earlier. Testing, memorizing, delaying. There was no more delay. Draven tilted Elian's head to the side with careful fingers. The silver collar had been unlocked and set aside, bare throat exposed, pulse fluttering weak and erratic beneath pale skin. He leaned in until his lips brushed the spot just below the jaw. Warm, alive, impossibly fragile. I will not let you go, he whispered against the skin. Even if I have to drag you back from oblivion myself. Elian's hand found Draven's wrist, squeezed once. Soft, trusting. Then Draven bit. Fangs sank deep, clean, precise, piercing artery and vein in the same motion. Blood flooded his mouth in a hot velvet rush. Fever sweet, laced with pain and that stubborn gentleness that had undone him from the first night. Draven groaned low in his throat, the sound vibrating through both their bodies. Forbidden ecstasy surged through him. Raw, overwhelming centuries of restraint shattering in the taste of this one mortal life. He drank slowly at first, savoring every pulse, every weakening flutter against his tongue. Elian gasped. Sharp, startled. Then arched in his arms, fingers clutching Draven's shirt. No scream yet. Just a soft, broken sound that tore at something deep inside the king. Draven's grip tightened. He pulled harder, deeper. Blood flowed faster now, thick and rich, filling his mouth, sliding down his throat like molten sin. Elian's heartbeat stuttered, once, twice, then slowed to a sluggish, desperate rhythm. Limbs grew heavy. The hand on Draven's wrist slipped, falling limp to the rug. The boy's eyes fluttered half-closed, lips parted on a soundless plea. Draven tore his mouth away with a ragged gasp. Blood coated his chin, dripped onto Elian's collarbone in dark rivulets. The boy's chest rose once, twice, shallow, failing. Not yet. Draven shifted, cradling Alien fully against his chest now, one arm locked around narrow waist, the other supporting his head like something infinitely precious. He lifted his own wrist to his fangs, tore it open with brutal efficiency, flesh parting, dark blood welling instantly. He pressed the wound to Alien's slack lips. "Drink," he commanded. Voice cracked, threaded with desperation he could no longer hide. "Drinking, damyo, take it, take me." For a moment, eternity in a single heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Alien's mouth moved. Weak at first, hesitant, lips sealed around the torn skin. A faint pull. Another. Blood flowed between pale lips. Alien swallowed. Once, choking, then again, stronger. Draven's free hand cradled the back of Alien's head, fingers threading through sweat-damp hair. "That's it," he murmured. "All of it. Come back to me." The change began almost immediately. Alien's body jerked, violent, sudden. A convulsion ripped through him. Spine arching off the rug, head snapping back in Draven's hold. A raw scream tore from his throat. High, animal, nothing like the soft voice that had once hummed lullabies in the dark. Draven clamped an arm across his chest, pinning him down, absorbing every thrash. "Hold on," Draven growled. "Fight it. Fight, Inmai, if you have to. Just don't let go." Another seizure. Bones cracked audibly, realigning, reshaping. Alien's fingers clawed at Draven's arms, nails drawing blood that healed almost instantly. Tears streamed from squeezed-shut eyes. Screams dissolved into hoarse, broken sobs. Draven rocked him through it. Slow, relentless, murmuring curses and commands, and pleas in equal measure. "You're stronger than this?" He snarled against Alien's temple. "You survived me. Survive this." The convulsions came in waves, each one longer, more brutal. Alien's body burned hot, then ice cold, then hot again. Skin flushed crimson, then pale to translucence. Fangs, small, sharp, newly formed, pushed through bleeding gums. He bit his own lip in agony, fresh blood mixing with Draven's. Dawn was approaching. Draven felt it in his bones. The faint, poisonous pull of light creeping toward the horizon. The chamber windows were sealed with heavy shutters, but the threat lingered. One final, wrenching spasm racked Alien's frame, every muscle locking, back bowed like a drawn bowstring. A scream that began human and ended something else entirely. Then, silence. Utter, terrifying silence. Alien went limp in Draven's arms, head lolling against the king's shoulder. No breath, no heartbeat, only stillness. Draven's own breath stopped. He stared down at the pale face, lips parted, fangs just visible, skin marble smooth and utterly motionless. "No," he whispered, voice raw. "No, you promised." He shook Alien once, gently, then harder. "Wake up. Wake up, yo." Nothing. Panic, cold, ancient, unfamiliar, clawed up Draven's throat. He pressed his ear to Alien's chest. Silence. He tore open his own wrist again, forced blood between slack lips. "Drink. Damn you, drink wing." A single drop slid down Alien's throat. Then, faint. So faint Draven almost missed it. A flutter. Another. Alien's chest rose. Once shallow, hesitant. Then again. Stronger. Crimson eyes snapped open. Wide, luminous, no longer green, but burning the same impossible shade of new leaf fire, now edged in blood. Fangs gleamed behind parted lip. Alien drew a ragged, unnecessary breath. Draven exhaled, shuddering, broken. "You're here," he rasped. Alien blinked slowly, lifted a trembling hand, touched Draven's cheek, fingers cool now, no fever, no warmth of life. "For us," he whispered. Draven crushed him close, arms locking around narrow frame, face buried in pale hair. Outside, dawn broke over the mountains. Inside the chamber, 2 eternities began. Chapter 14. Awakening in Crimson Hawn. The first sound was a breath. Not the shallow rasp of a dying human, but something deeper, deliberate, unnecessary, yet instinctive. Elian stirred against Draven's chest. The king had not moved in hours. He sat on the bearskin rug with Elian cradled across his lap, back braced against the foot of the bed, arms locked around the boy as though release might unravel everything. Dawn had come and gone. Thin bars of muted light leaked through the shutter seams, harmless here in the sealed chamber. Draven had stared at the closed lids, the still lips, the faint new points of fangs just visible behind them. Willing life, new life, back into the fragile frame. Then those lashes fluttered. Crimson eyes opened. They were not the violent scarlet of most turned vampires, not the flat, hungry red of predators who had long forgotten mercy. They were luminous, still green at the core, like forest light filtered through blood, edged now in molten garnet. The color shifted with every slow blink, holding the same impossible purity that had once belonged to a boy who healed broken birds and hummed lullabies in dungeons. Elian blinked again, focused on Draven's face. Recognition dawned, soft, wondering. A small tentative smile curved his lips. Fangs gleamed, delicate, newly formed, shyly peeking from behind bloodless lips. Draven's breath left him in a single ragged sound. Relief crashed through him so violently it felt like pain. His arms tightened convulsively. He buried his face in Elian's hair and inhaled, deep, greedy, scenting the change. No more fever sweat, no more human fragility, only cool marble skin and a faint, intoxicating echo of his own blood running through new veins. "You came back," Draven rasped against pale strands. Voice cracked open, raw at all. "You fucking came back." Elian's hand lifted, slow, exploratory, and cupped Draven's jaw. Cool fingers now, no warmth of life, yet the touch carried the same gentleness. "I told you," Elian whispered, voice still soft but resonant in a way it had never been. Deeper timbre, velvet edge. "For us." Draven pulled back just enough to look at him. Crimson eyes, searched crimson eyes. He traced the line of one fang with a thumb. Gentle, reverent, then pressed until a single bead of blood welled. Elian's tongue darted out instinctively, tasting it. A small shiver ran through him. The king's relief was short-lived. He needed to know. Needed proof this new creature was strong enough to survive the world that would try to tear him apart. Draven rose in one fluid motion, lifting Elian with him as though he weighed nothing. He set the boy on his feet, steady but careful. Elian swayed once, then found balance. New instincts already aligning, posture straighter, movements smoother, predator grace layered over old gentleness. Draven stepped back 3 paces. "Show me," he said, voice hard again. "Move, part." Elian tilted his head, questioning. Draven struck, fast, no warning. Open palm aimed at Elian's cheek. The boy moved before thought, head snapping aside, hand coming up to block. The slap connected with forearm instead of face. Solid, sure. Draven's eyes narrowed. He struck again, faster, claws extended this time, raking toward ribs. Elian twisted away, body bending in a way no human spine could manage, then countered instinctively, palm thrusting toward Draven's chest. The king caught the wrist mid-air, twisted, forced Elian to his knees. Pain flared across Elian's features, brief, then gone. He looked up without fear. "Again!" Draven commanded. They trained for hours. No mercy. Draven pushed, blows, holds, feints, testing speed, strength reflexes sharpened by the change. Ilion fell, rose, fell again. Each time he adapted faster, learning to anticipate, to counter, to use the unnatural power coiling in new muscles. A bruise bloomed on his cheekbone, dark then faded in minutes. A shallow cut across his forearm closed before blood could well. Through it all, the gentleness remained. When Draven pinned him to the floor, knee on chest, claws at throat, Ilion did not snarl or snap. He only looked up with those luminous crimson eyes and whispered, "You're holding back." Draven froze. Ilion's hand rose, slow, deliberate, and rested against the king's wrist. Not pushing away, simply touching. "You don't have to prove I'm strong," Ilion said softly. "I already know, because I survived you." Something in Draven fractured again, not wide, not irreparable, but enough. He released the hold, pulled Ilion up, drew him close, chest to chest, foreheads touching. "You will never be weak again," Draven murmured. "But you will never lose this." His thumb brushed Ilion's lower lip, tracing the shy curve of fang. "This light, if it fades, if the change twists it, I will tear eternity apart to bring it back." Ilion's arms slid around Draven's waist. He rested his head against the king's shoulder, cool cheek to cool skin. "Then don't let it fade," he whispered. "Keep me close." Draven's hand fisted in pale hair, possessive, tender. "I will chain the stars before I let you go." They stood like that. Two predators now, one still capable of mercy, the other still choosing restraint. Outside, the fortress stirred. Ultimatums had become war drums, rival banners massed at the gates. Draven's empire teetered on the edge of siege. But inside the chamber, a deeper bond had forged. Ilion's gentleness did not blunt Draven's cruelty, it tempered it. A quiet hand on a wrist could still a slaughter. A soft word could redirect rage. The king's power remained absolute, ruthless, unchallenged. Yet now it had purpose beyond conquest. Now it had protection. Ilion drew back slightly, smiled again. Small, shy, fangs glinting. "Teach me the rest," he said, "so I can stand beside you, not behind." Draven's lips curved, rare, genuine. "Then come," he said. "Let me show you what eternity really means." He led Ilion to the tall windows, threw open the shutters. Dawn light flooded in, harsh, blinding to old eyes. Ilion did not flinch. He stepped into it beside Draven, shoulder to shoulder, crimson eyes meeting the sun without fear. Two shadows against the light. One king, one consort, both unbreakable. Chapter 15. Empire of Shadows Xinjiu. The war lasted 6 weeks. Draven did not declare it. Declarations were for kings who still believed in mercy or theater. He simply moved. At the head of his vanguard, now swelled by loyal houses who had witnessed the public executions, the balcony slaughter, and the quiet, terrifying presence of the new crimson-eyed consort at the king's side. He descended on the eastern marshes first. House Vern's stronghold rose from black water like a tumor of bone and iron. Draven burned it in a single night. No siege engines, no parley. He led the charge himself, claws and fangs tearing through defenders, while Ilion watched from the ridge above, still wearing the king's cloak, now tailored to fit a vampire's frame, silver collar replaced by a thin obsidian band, etched with the same thorn-wreath crown. Vern's traffickers died screaming. Their ledgers, lists of names, prices, delivery dates, were nailed to the smoldering palisades before the flames took them. The captives they had held were freed. Some fled into the night, others knelt in the mud and swore fealty to the one who had ended their chains. Draven did not ask for oaths. He simply left them alive. House Lirath followed. Their mountain citadel, carved into sheer granite, was said to be impregnable. Draven proved otherwise. He scaled the outer wall alone, under cover of moonless dark, opened the gates from within, and let his forces pour through like floodwater. Elian moved among the shadows beside him, silent, swift, fangs still shy but precise. When a Lirath enforcer lunged for the consort's throat, Elian caught the wrist mid-strike, twisted and snapped bone with a sound like dry wood. He did not kill. He disarmed. The enforcer lived long enough to watch Draven rip out his lord's heart and hold it aloft for the survivors to see. No quarter for traffickers. No mercy for those who dealt in flesh. One by one, the networks crumbled. Outposts razed. Auction pens smashed. Caravans intercepted and burned. The black market trade that had once fed half the vampire courts withered to ash and memory. Rival lords who had sent ultimatums now sent pleas, then heads on pikes when pleas went unanswered. Through it all, Elian walked at Draven's side, not behind, not hidden, openly. The court that had once whispered of weakness now spoke in hushed awe of the consort who could still hum a lullaby after watching a fortress fall, who could place a cool hand on the king's arm and turn a slaughter into precision instead of frenzy. His gentleness did not dull Draven's blade, it guided it. When rage threatened to consume the king entirely, a soft word, a touch, a look from those luminous crimson eyes pulled him back from the edge. Draven's rule hardened. The empire grew colder, sharper, more absolute, yet no longer did it feed on the innocent. Chains vanished from the realm, not by decree, but by example. The king who had once viewed humans as livestock now crushed any who treated them as such. The message was clear. The Empire of Shadows would no longer profit from fragility. It would protect it. On the final night of the campaign, under a moon scarred by old battles and fresh smoke, Draven and Elian stood atop the highest tower of the obsidian citadel. Below them the valley lay quiet, watchfires extinguished, rival banners trampled into mud, the last of the trafficking lords reduced to cooling ash on distant pyres. The wind carried the scent of pine and distant rain, clean for the first time in centuries. Elian leaned against the parapet, cloak billowing gently. His fangs caught moonlight when he turned to Draven. Small, still a little shy but no longer hidden. "It's over," he said softly. Draven stepped behind him. Arms slid around narrow waist, chin resting on Elian's shoulder. For once there was no armor, no bloodied coat, only black silk and the shared stillness of two creatures who no longer feared dawn. "Not over," Draven murmured against pale hair. "Begun." Elian's hand covered Draven's where it rested over his heart, no longer beating, yet somehow fuller. "No more chains," Elian whispered. Draven pressed a kiss to the side of his throat. Gentle, reverent, the place where fangs had first claimed him. "No more chains," he echoed. A vow. A promise carved deeper than any scar. They stood like that as the scarred moon climbed higher, king and consort, darkness and light entwined. Ruthlessness tempered by gentleness, power anchored by mercy. The realm below them breathed free. And in the quiet between heartbeats that no longer came, their union became the unbreakable foundation of an empire reborn, not in conquest alone, but in the fragile, fierce truce between shadow and the light that refused to be extinguished. Forever theirs, unbroken.
That's all for today on Cherry Blossom BL Story. Thank you for watching. What do you think about this chapter? Did you like it, or do you think something unexpected is coming? Comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more stories.